So here we are with little Jimmy, and we're going to teach him to get in his bed using shaping and clicker training. So I need to start this video by saying that this video was actually about 4 years ago now, when I was still sort of learning. There are mistakes in this video, but obviously we will be able to see and go through some. So first of all, we need to notice the way that I set this up. So the bed is next to us, I am stood next to the bed, to try and make it a little bit easier for Jimmy to understand that the bed is the important part in this scenario. He is offering different behaviours, laying down, sniffing. I don't believe this was our first session, but this is the only video I now have of this training. But you do see, there we go, he's jumped into his bed, so I've clicked and rewarded for that. You'll also see that I am rewarding out of the bed, so that I reset the behaviour. So later on is when we reward for staying in the bed, so then you would place the food in the bed. But just for now, I was focusing on getting him to jump in his bed on the cue bed. So actually what we're doing is clicking for him being in the bed and then rewarding out of the bed to reset it. You'll see there that he jumped in the bed and I didn't click and reward, and he waited for that. The reason being, I did not say the cue, I did not say bed, and he jumped in anticipating the reward, which we can use to our advantage in dog training. However, because in this session I was focusing on strengthening the cue, I only want to reward him for doing the behaviour after the cue. So then later on, it'll be more successful when I do say the cue bed and he knows that he has to go and jump in his bed. So this is just how we make sure that the dog understands the cue, not just that we've had a training session, we've set it up like this, and that's how he's learnt. We want him to also learn that later on, when I'm stood on the other side of the kitchen, I can tell him to go and get in his bed, and he will actually understand what that means without having the training session. So again, I'm just waiting for him to sort of reset himself there. At this point, I do believe that I should have stopped the session. He was getting a little bit distracted. He'd anticipated a little bit more without the cue, so he wasn't getting rewarded as frequently, which stopped the progress. So at this point, I should have really stopped the session and come back to it another day, and just kind of left it there. However, I was also torn between trying to just get one more in to finish that on that positive, because we'd had a few where I hadn't been able to reward. You can see that he's sort of offering different kinds of behaviours now. He's jumping up on the chair, doing all sorts of different things, jumping at me. He does eventually then jump back into his bed so we can reward again, and then it does seem like we're back on track. So this is obviously related to the fact that he's now getting those rewards again, that he's now more motivated to carry on with that training, whereas before he'd done a couple of things not quite right, hadn't got the reward, and then was less motivated to actually carry on with the training session. Again, I should have stopped the training session there, but I didn't. But actually, he does a couple more nice little repetitions. And like I say, this is actually the only video I have of this training, which is a little bit annoying, because it would have been nice to be able to show the progression of this behaviour. So as I say, I was focusing on strengthening the cue on this session. However, also what I would have liked to have been able to show you is when we progress this then onto the length of time in the bed, because obviously what I'm doing is I'm clicking him for being in the bed and rewarding him out of the bed to reset the behaviour. So actually what he's doing is jumping in the bed and straight out again. So now what I would like him to do is jump in the bed and be able to stay there. So how I would do this is click him for being on the bed, doing that on my cue, and then rewarding in the bed. So a couple of treats to keep him in position, and then I would throw a treat out of the bed to reset. So we'd start to build duration in the bed there. So this is near the end of the session. As you can see, still offering a few different behaviours. He keeps jumping on that chair there because then he can jump into the bed and gets rewarded. And I decided to end the session there, and I accidentally dropped my clicker on his head. Poor Jimmy.